How to manipulate your pistol without spilling your coffee. Hey everybody, BK with Masada Tactical, and today we're going to discuss how to do one-handed pistol manipulation if and when you need it. So before we actually begin, just for safety, again, clear pistol, one magazine is completely empty, and the other one will have one dummy round just to be able to manipulate the pistol and show you how this skill works. Coffee mugs aside, there are going to be situations where I may be forced to use only one hand to manipulate a pistol. It may be a result of an injury, it may be tactically, maybe my other hand is occupied holding something else or a different tool, or just situational. For whatever reason, I have to use the one hand and I got to go with it. So all is not lost, and there's still things I can do. The processes are the same in the sense of I need to get rid of the one magazine that is in the pistol at the moment. I got to secure the firearm in a certain manner to make sure that I can insert a fresh magazine and then manipulate the pistol to put it back in, battery, and ready to engage again. There are a lot of different demonstrations that I've seen. Some of them require you to drop to a knee, put the pistol behind your knee using your heel or your shoe. A lot of fancy skills out there, and there may be a time or place where all those will come into play, and in a future video we'll address what to do from a kneeling or even a prone position when you only have one hand to use. Today we're going to stick to the basics, and namely being standing, and I need to use one hand. So starting with my strong hand, my support hand is going to be out of the equation for whatever reason, right? Now when pull the trigger, nothing happened, and I got to get this gun back into work. First thing I got to do is drop that magazine. Make sure you cleared your magazine well before you do anything else. Next thing is to secure the gun, because I need my right hand free to reach for my spare magazine. If I have a holster, use the holster. If you don't have a holster, you can always stack it in your waistband or secure it some other way. Easiest thing, put it again where it belongs, and that frees my hand. I know my gun is retained. I'm not worried about dropping it. I can still move if I need to, tactically getting from one point of cover to a different point of cover maybe, right? So I'm not limited in any ways, right? I'm going to reach for my other magazine. Remember that you got to be very acutely aware of the orientation of the round, right? Because you're reaching across and now you're using your support hand the way you usually would. So it may require you to turn it one additional half a turn to get it oriented correctly. Insert it into the magazine well. One thing that I highly recommend, make sure you tap it again. When I use my support hand, it's very easy to make sure it's well seated, but when you're using only your one hand, it may not be seated all the way. So just make sure that fraction of a second, well worth it in the long scheme of things, to make sure that magazine is in place when I charge or rack around. To rack around, if the reason my firearm was not working because it went to a slide lock, I can easily use the slide release. If it is any kind of other malfunction, I may even have a round already chambered that just didn't work, right? I need to manipulate the slide. I can use my belt, I can use my holster, I can use a pocket. Having a red dot optic on the pistol certainly aids and facilitates the whole process. Rack it explosively, make sure it's back in action, and I can get back in the fight. Things may get a little more complicated if I am using my support hand. Again, maybe the result of my strong hand being injured or out of the equation for whatever other reason, and I need to manipulate the gun now one-handed using my support hand only. If I have a malfunction, slide is forward. If I have a slide lock with magazines empty, slide is obviously going to be to the rear. Be cognizant of that, because that will affect how I manipulate the slide after the reload. The first thing I gotta do is I wanna drop that magazine out. I can use my middle finger or my index finger. Remember, your magazine release, depending on the pistol you're using, is gonna be on your support side. So I need to make sure to manipulate it slightly different than typically using my thumb, right? Now I have to secure the firearm. If I am a concealed carry gun owner that carries inside the waistband, typically on the appendix, it may be easier to just, again, rotate the gun and just stick it in your holster. But assuming I have a tactical holster or some other type of holster that's on my waistband or even further back, reaching to it with my support hand may be complicated. It will be very much depending on the gear you're wearing, your flexibility, girth, and so forth. So it may be easier to just tuck it in your waistband. Again, I need to secure it. Remember that the condition of the gun, to be cognizant of trigger, right? So if I have a round chamber, that may not be what you want to do. If the gun is empty, that may be a better option. But again, just keep that in the back of your mind. I'm going to stow the gun away in my waistband to the best of my ability, reach for my spare magazine and load it. Just like before, I want to make sure it is well seated, make sure that there's no chance of that magazine dropping. Then the next thing I want to do is I want to rack the slide. I want to make sure that gun is in battery and ready to go. I'm going to use my, again, my optic or rear sight to trap against a belt, a pocket, or anything hard on me to manipulate that slide backwards. Again, if the slide is locked to the rear, you could easily use the slide release. Just be, again, aware that depending on the pistol, it may be harder for you to reach with your index finger. So just be aware of that. Once the round is in the chamber, you can, again, re-engage as needed. Manipulating a firearm one-handed should never be your go-to. It should be a last resort operation manipulation in the event that one hand is out of the equation. If that happens, remember the sequence. Make sure that magazine that was in the gun is out. Make sure it dropped positively. Be sure that secure the firearm where it's not going to move, where you can reload a fresh magazine in a safe manner. Ideally in a holster so you can still move and relocate if you needed to. One of the reasons I don't like dropping to a knee, it locks you in place, right? So using your holster or waistband probably a better option. And then once you insert a fresh magazine, before you drop the slide, make sure that magazine is well seated to avoid any potential malfunctions down the road. Thank you for all the questions, comments, likes, subscribers, and so forth. We truly do appreciate it. Please keep doing that. Please share this with your friends. Hopefully other people can benefit from the information we share with you. As always, make sure if you haven't to subscribe and follow up on social media, LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. Until next time, watch your six.